The NBA is back on the Nintendo Switch, with the fifth entry into the series on Nintendo's platform. Now, while it does seem like most of the focus this year has went to the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series systems, 2K still hasn't forgotten to do, well, something for basketball fans hoping to play the series on the Switch. Now, there's a solid basketball game here, per usual, but is it worth picking up this year's version on Nintendo's platform? That's what we're here to talk about. Danny from the Famicast here. If you're new to the channel, please be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications. Sound off in the comments below, and we may read out your comment on our bi-weekly show called the Famicast. Today, though, we're taking a look at NBA 2K22 on the Nintendo Switch in this review. Now, just to kick things off, I want to start out by saying that in my time so far with NBA 2K22 on the Switch, I've been mainly focusing on the My Career mode. Now, there are quite a few different modes and ways to play here, such as Quick Play, My League, My GM, the ability to play as current and classic NBA stars, as well as WNBA players. I mean, there really is a lot to do here. Now, regardless, again, most of my impressions here are based specifically on My Career. Now, things like gameplay, graphics, performance, all that type of stuff, that's the same across all modes, so yeah, we'll get to that here too. Now, something I wanted to note here too, for those picking up the Japanese physical version of 2K22, the standard edition only, Rui Hachimura is front and center as the cover athlete in Japan. Now, not only that, but if you pick up the game this way, the game comes with this poster that features Hachimura and this like 2K22 key art. So if you're into collecting physical, this is definitely something you're going to want to try to get your hands on. The physical Japanese version has full English support here too. But unfortunately, given the small size of the cart that 2K skimps out on every year, you still will have to download quite a bit of data before you can get going. Over 40 gigabytes. It's really kind of a pointless thing to do unless you really just want to have that Hachimura cover. Now, while defense remains largely unchanged from previous entries, the shooting mechanics seem to have been changed just a little bit from last year. I mean, sure, things are all timing based here, and it really depends on what kind of player you're controlling. I mean, for me, I'm trying to go for like this mid, long-range shooter, so it's just a matter of trying to nail down the timing here. It seems a little bit easier than last year too, but you know, if you're playing as a my player early on, it's pretty damn tough. I mean, if you're sticking to just playing as professional players or general players that just have better ratings than like the stock My Player when you start out, I think it's going to be a little bit more likely to be a little bit easier for you. Now for 2K22, gamers are placed in the role of MP, a skilled baller who also has quite a presence not only in the court but also on YouTube. Now here you're working your way from high school to college and then eventually into the NBA. While I don't mind the trajectory of like the My Career mode here in 2K22, I think that more could have been done before your player reaches the NBA. Now, my personal favorite story beats actually appeared in 2K21. Now, just in case you don't remember if you didn't play it, now in that game, you played through some of your high school career, and then basically you made your way through college, and then you played through part of like the college season and then like the tournament, and then you made your way into the pros. Now, while there is a dab of high school and college basketball here in 2K22, more likely just a dab of college, the whole process is over with way too quickly. Now, what was so good about last year's version was that you were kind of eased into the overall game by playing against this lesser talent at the high school and college level. Now, with your player being pretty terrible to start out with himself, the matchups were pretty fair, and you could gain a decent amount of VC to improve your player by the time you went pro. Now, that's not here in 2K22. Now, I would have liked to see some kind of an option to extend your college career or something like that. I mean, the events leading up to the NBA draft and all that stuff just anyway were just way too abrupt. It didn't really give you much of a time to get a feel for the characters that you're interacting with, and you just kind of thrust into things. Now, on the flip side, things do seem to get a little bit more personal, I guess, the more you play in your first season. Yeah, I was drafted by the Denver Nuggets, and I will say here, I didn't have an option to choose like preferred team or anything like that, so that was that. I mean, there will be a lot of off-the-court drama here that you'll have to deal with. I mean, per usual, you have to face the media and make choices that are basically going to determine your relationship with your teammates, coaches, and the GM and stuff like that. I like that type of stuff. I think that's great, and I really like that they continue to put this type of thing in 2K. But again, things here specifically seem to be like they're trying to create conflict between coaches and management where there really isn't any. Then there's this whole YouTube celebrity angle type of thing, which is, at least up to the point where I am, it's only mentioned, but not really shown in any meaningful way. Now, just to get to, I guess, more gamey type of stuff, in terms of player progression, the pacing here at gaining like the virtual currency or the VC is pretty generous. In just a handful of games, I was able to jump from a base 60 rating to around a 65 or 66 or so. The game this year does make it a little annoying when you're adjusting your skills, as they don't really show you how much things cost in VC front and center. You have to adjust the skills and then press X to see if you have enough VC to make the purchase. So that's that. I mean, of course, there is the ability to spend real-world money on the eShop to improve your player. So yeah, but it's just kind of annoying to kind of flip between this just to make sure you have enough. It's honestly very tempting when starting out because you're pretty bad, but if you stick with it, you actually gradually make your way to a reasonable level and a reasonable rating. The badge system here is also back as well, and by and large, like, not much has changed for player progression in 2K22 from 2K21. Now, this year's neighborhood doesn't take place in an actual neighborhood like it usually did, but rather on this large cruise ship called the Concha del Mar. Now, of course, the city, like this next generation exclusive mode that lets players run loose around a town of sorts or whatever, is not present in the Switch version of the game. Now, while it is nice to see this fresh coat of paint here with the Concha del Mar, things still feel mostly the same, for better or worse. Now, one of the most interesting additions here are the ability to take on quests. Like in this MMO or RPG fashion, you can chat with various NPCs on the ship and take on tasks that can earn you some VC. Now, of the few that I kind of initiated here, at least right off the bat, some of these required players to participate in online matches and accomplish various goals in these matches and stuff like that. Now, with the low level of my character starting out, this just really didn't seem like it would be very fun for me. And I didn't even know if I'd even be able to do it with my guy being so terrible. So I think the overall idea here, it's really cool. It's really great. And maybe it's something I'll try to get into, like the better my player gets or whatever. But for now, I'm just going to focus on keep improving my player and my career before worrying about dunking on folks online or tricking out my player with some fab threads or anything like that. Now, personally, I never really cared for this aspect of NBA 2K, like the neighborhood type of thing. Now, apparently, a lot of people really get into this mode. It is kind of like the online hub for the game to use your created player and all that type of stuff, which might be fun for some. I've just never really seen the appeal. I prefer to focus on the single player side of things here. How about you guys? Are you guys into online play with the NBA 2K? Be sure to sound off. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about that. Now, if you've played the NBA 2K series on the Switch over the years, you probably know what to expect. The game isn't going to knock your socks off with visual fidelity or anything like that, but you do get a decent-looking basketball sim, which has pretty realistic physics, great presentation, both on the visual and audio front. Now, playing the game during launch weekend can always be a time when you will experience some weird bugs and performance issues. While none of the things I encountered were game-breaking or anything like that, some things did just leave me a little bit disappointed. For example, for the character creation aspect of the game, it seemed like some of the hair options here just weren't loading properly, or that maybe they just took a step back here or something. I don't know, but you can kind of just see what would have usually been like this lush full head of hair turn into like this flat blurry mess on my player's head. Now, not only that, but for some reason the 2K22 accompanying app that you would usually use to scan in like your face and stuff like that, that wasn't available on the App Store or anything like that, at least not that I could find. And I was looking through 2K's released apps and all that type of stuff, so yeah, so I couldn't really do that, which was kind of disappointing. So your mileage may vary with that. Now, cutscenes here are a bit hit or miss. Now, during the My Career mode, there were times when things were a bit jumpy, but things seemed to be running quite a bit smoother than 2K21 on the Switch, at least when it first came out. Now, as for the games themselves, things run pretty smoothly. I never really ran into any issues on the court. Things are locked here to 30 frames per second per usual and look pretty good on the Switch. NBA 2K22 on the Nintendo Switch is a decent effort, and you can still find some fun with this basketball sim. It's definitely not perfect, and I really think the engine is starting to show its age. The gameplay here remains solid. There are plenty of modes to play to keep you busy for dozens and dozens of hours. The My Career mode here, though, it's a bit underwhelming with kind of an underdeveloped story and some kind of odd story choices. Now, if you're coming off of like 2K21, I can't full-heartedly recommend jumping into 2K22. But if you sat out the past year or so of the series, this might be worth it for you. As always, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. If you like what you see, please feel free to drop this one a like. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. We've got tons of podcasts, video reviews, looks at sports games just like this, and a whole lot more. Also, be sure to check us out on our website, thefamicast.com, and on social media at thefamicast on Twitter. If you dig what we're doing, consider supporting us on Patreon. Again, this is Danny from the Famicast. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you later.